Castillo de San Marcos National Monument, Florida, 360-degree, National Park Service logo. Mike Evans, Park Ranger. External walking tour, outside the Castillo next to the Cubo line, a wall of wooden logs in the field west of the fort.
Welcome to the Cubo line. What we have here is a defense line that ran from the Castillo, which you see behind me, ran to the west up to one of the creeks and moved south along the creek bank almost 1.5 miles to the southern end of the city.
A hand-drawn map of the Castillo and surrounding area shows the Cubo line stretching from the Matanzas Bay to San Sebastian River.
Cubo line was very important because it safeguarded the city from attack from a variety of forces, from the English to Native Americans to any people who would be interested in causing the people of St. Augustine some trials and tribulations. Comprised of palmetto logs who would absorb the shot and shell of enemy fire, but it formed a vital part of the city's defensive mechanism, defensive line.
The scene changes to the base of the Castillo's walls in the dry moat.
We are standing in the moat of the Castillo de San Marcos. One of the major questions people have when they come to the fort, they ask, where is the water in the moat? To be quite honest, there was never any water in the moat. This was a dry moat. The purpose of a moat, very simple, is to keep people from digging underneath the walls of the fort into the courtyard of the fort. If you have water in the moat, water weighs 8.2 pounds per gallon. You try to dig underneath that moat, the weight of the water would collapse your tunneling and drown your miners or your engineers trying to get underneath the fort. Now, when they built this is a boilerplate fort, original design by Italian and Spanish military engineers.
A building plan for the Castillo.
When they laid this out, all forts came with a moat device. When they built it here, they discovered that the water table here in Florida was too high. You could not dig underneath the walls without flooding out, so the moat was of no use to them. They did use it to put their cattle and their livestock in it, both in the 1702 siege and the 1740 siege. This was a commissary on the hoof, and it served that purpose quite nicely. Now, in 1938, there was a push to put water in the moat. Historically, they saw we need to have water in the moat. Everybody believed that water should be in the moat. After all, it was in the movies. The great Errol Flynn pirate flicks, they had water in the moat.
A black and white aerial photograph of the Castillo with water in the moat.
They put water in the moat, but in 1956, they discovered that water was destroying the fort. Water was undermining the fort. The blocks were sliding out. You know, you got to remember there's over 450,000 hand-cut individual stones in this fort. The great weight was pushing the stones out with the water here, and they had to do something. In 1995, they did. They re-engineered. They drained the moat, pushed the blocks into place, and filled the moat with 4 feet of fill to backfill to hold the stones in place. As of this date, the fort is steady, and it'll be preserved for another 450 years, we hope.
The scene changes to the water battery on the riverside of the Castillo. Behind the Ranger is a line of cannons.
We're standing in the water battery that was basically constructed in 1840 onward. Normally had 16 32-pound cannon and roughly 4 8-inch howitzers, some of the guns you see behind me. This was designed to protect the bay and the fort from a water battery level. It was never used in combat. During the war between the states or the American Civil War, your choice, these guns were taken by the Confederates and moved elsewhere, to be used in the Confederate fortifications in Fernandina Beach at Fort Clinch, and to the south in various regions throughout Florida and the southeast. They left some of the guns behind, but these guns were taken during the war and moved elsewhere. Temporary battery was never used in combat. You will see behind me the small stone little building. That is the hot shot furnace, designed to heat the hot shot up, white hot, to fire it at ships. They would load them in the cannon to fire at ships and hopefully hit the ship, set them on fire.
A photo of the hot shot furnace, a small coquina brick structure with a small opening and chimney.
But the system was antiquated before it was even installed. But this is another part of the Castillo's defensive plan, but in the 1840s. Folks, when you visit the Castillo de San Marcos National Monument here in St. Augustine, Florida, enjoy the fort. But there's more to the fort than just its massive fortifications. which preserved Spain's rule for many, many years.
Various photos of the different groups and people who occupied the fort over its history.
It also was the home of the smaller people of Florida, the people who made Florida what it was. The men and women who manned the Castillo, the families who lived in St. Augustine. This was a very important part of their world. And this is where America was born. So when you come to the Castillo de San Marcos, not only come and look at the fortifications, the garritas, the stone walls, the moat, the field pieces, the cannons on board, but look at the whole picture of the fort, its place in American history. It is part of our unique culture and part of the great thing we call America. So come and enjoy it. After all, the parks belong to you.
For more information, visit www.nps.gov/casa, facebook.com/CastilloNPS, National Park Service logo, St. Johns County Tourist Development Council logo, culture around every corner, St. Augustine and Ponte Vedra, culture around every corner logo, a service of the St. John's Cultural Council.